On this episode of Scotty's Garage, I finished rebuilding the transmission on Dad's ute. And spoiler alert, it works. So I'm going to show you what I can of this rebuild, but I wouldn't consider it a how-to video. If you want to see a how-to on rebuilding a 904, I'm going to provide a link to a video series by Dust the Garage. It's only a small channel, but his video series on rebuilding a 904 is just fantastic. He goes through the disassembly, inspection, rebuilding, part selection, all that sort of stuff in a series of about 15-minute videos. There's only about 5 or 6 videos, and I mean overall totals like a minute or an hour or more. However, really worth watching, so I'll provide a link in the description. And certainly he's shown me a lot of stuff of where I'm like, wow, I can do this. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I can do this, I think. Anyway, so we're going to get into our clutch packs and that sort of stuff. The video, I suspect, is starting to blow out in size a bit too, so and I won't know until I edit. So if it is getting too long, right now is where I'm going to cut it off and go into part 2. But if that happens, I'll see you next time. If not, I'll just keep going. Anyway, clutch drums, let's have a look. Alright, so I have to give all this stuff a good clean. It's all still a bit dirty. Alright, so we start off, got a big circlip in the top here. We're going to remove that. I'll show you close up. So circlip is there. Remove this circlip and you can see all our clutches are in there. So pretty simple. Just work our way around. There she goes. All right. Yeah, there's definitely been some heat in some of these steels, so we'll keep the top steel, but yeah, there's a couple of hot spots there. I'll give you a close-up. See, there's been some hot spotting there and definitely some heat in there. So this steel will be getting chucked. We have to keep that one because it's the top, but this one will definitely be getting chucked. Clutches don't look too bad, but yeah, definitely some heat there in the steels. So we've got 5 clutches and 4 steels. This is the one that needs the press, so we'll come back to you. Same arrangement, circlip in the top. Fuck. Work your way around, and same deal. There's the bottom and the top, and we got 4 thin clutches in there. So you got thin clutches and thick clutches. So these are the thins. Again, looks like some heat in the steels. So definitely, yeah, seen some wear there. You got to keep the top and the bottom steels. All right, and then we've got another one in the bottom here, another spring. Okay. Oops. So this one's a wavy spring. So just remember that when if you're pulling it out, if you're doing a Torqueflite. I suspect many of you are probably looking at this going, you're never doing a Torqueflite in your life, but I hope it's interesting anyway. Come on. All right, there it is. It's got a bit of a wave in it. And that goes like that. And then we got a big piston in the bottom. So seal to replace there. And then some gunk. Well, not really gunk, but yeah, just let's clean that fluid and any sort of grit out of there. Right, so I'm going to start replacing some seals on these pistons. Make sure we get the right seal on the right piston. Alright, what's that one look like? That looks like that one. Okay, so we'll use him. And then we've got one on the inside as well. What's this one look like? Looks like that one. Right, cool. Lube them up with some trans fluid. Tuck him up in there. Just make sure you get the orientation right. Seals tend to work one way.
A few moments later.
Alright, so again, this one's going to be facing downwards because that's the top of the piston. So insert seal so it's facing downwards and get on there. So this is essentially what you'll be doing for the whole thing, you know, finding the right seal, lubing it up, making sure everything's clean, and then getting it on there so it sits all nice. All right. Is that sitting good? I think so. And then that goes into there. And sometimes it helps to have a little plastic sheet to guide it in. And I might have to go get one of those. So thin, semi-hard plastic sheet will help guide the seal in. I'll show you what I mean. So you get a thin, flexible piece of plastic and you can work it in there and help guide the seal in. Now we've got to work the inner seal on this one first.
A few moments later.
Alright, just trying to get this seal in. I think we're pretty close. There we go. You kid. You pulled it all the way out again, didn't you?
A few moments later.
There we go. Alrighty. New seals are in. We get our duber. So get our spring, put that in. Get our wavy spring, wavy lock wire. That's in. All right. Steel on the bottom. And then we start looking at our clutches. So these are thin clutches. What do we got? Thicks and thins. How many do we need? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Alright, that's correct. So let's pull our... So we've got our clutches and steels there. We've got 3 steels and 4 clutches. And they're not going back in, and that's the top. All right. Clutch. Then grab a steel. Give her a dip. And top. And our clip to seal the deal. All right, and then we'll have to make sure that's in proper. And then we measure it with our feeler gauges. We'll do that in a sec. But that's the basics of it. So, first one done. One more to go, well, one more lot of clutches to go anyway. And then we've got a bunch of seals and the bands and reassembly, and all that's going to happen tomorrow because I need to hit the road and get home in time for dinner. But anyway, there for the bin. They're good ones. We'll be back here in the morning to see how we can go with the rest of it. No, I'm not having fun. Right, well, it's the next day, so let's continue on from where we left off, and that is doing this forward drum. Now, this one's a little bit different in that it has this large spring inside, which you have to use a press if you've got one, or there's a special tool that you can pull it down with, but we've got the hydraulic press there, so we've used that. So, spring needs to be compressed. Obviously, we've done that. Pull out the circlip, done that. And then we've got a piston inside here which has to come out, and then we've got to replace that seal and then the seal inside the drum there. All right, let's give it a clean up and change them over. Pretty happy with that. Okay. So, spring has to go back in. So we're going to take it back over to the press that in, and get our clip in. Right, snap ring is in place. Release. Okay, job done. Now we've got that compressed down, it's time for more clutches and steels. So if you look at that pack, there's 5 steels there and 5 clutches. So basically all that is not going back in. We'll start with new steels. Give it a dip. Lubricate. So that steel goes in the bottom, followed by a clutch. Last clutch, and then the thick one for the top. Okay. And then clip in the top. Okay, so I measured the clearance on the other clutch pack at 30 thou, which is on the tight side. You wouldn't want it much tighter than that. This one's going to be a lot looser. Right, so I've just had a look at the specs. It's measuring up at 106 thou at the moment, which is, you know, it feels like it's up there, but the specifications are between 75 thou and 152 thou, so yeah, it's pretty wide and we're well within that. So yeah. We have our clutch packs in. They're all nice and new steels, new clutches, new seals in the drums. So that part is done. Now we just need to do the rest of it. Let's tip the excess out. Are we having fun yet? Right. Let's start the reunification process, putting this box back together. Okay, we'll start with our fancy new accumulator piston, second gear accumulator. It's going to be the easiest to replace. Lubed it up. Slides in there, but feels like it goes in too easy, to be honest. So I've got new seals on our second gear accumulator here, so that'll slide in there. go. Alright, now we've got to push it in. The fun part.
A few moments later.
Right. Get there in the end. Now we've got our low and reverse servo. I think I called it something else before. Might have got that wrong. I think I said third gear or something. All right. Same as before, this one's going to be a bit tough to do. There we go. Right. A little bit hard to do by yourself, but perseverance, you'll get there in the end. So that's given us a good start. Let's get the rest of it done. So, output shaft. Sorry about the wind noises, it is very windy today. Of course, I've replaced all the seals here. There we go. Right. Yeah, band. Okay. Get the band in there before we do anything else. First drum. Glue. Just got to get it located in the sprag there. Okay, I think we're getting it. There we go. God, that wind is really annoying, isn't it? Need to fix the roof, I think. All right, drum is in. Oh, what a mission. Maybe that wasn't all the way in. Okay, let's try that. And again. That looks a bit better. All right, thrust washers in place. Okay. Drum. Bloody hell. not one thing, it's another. Okay, I think that's right. Okay, thrust washer. Okay, and circlip. So this next part's going to be a bit tricky. I've got to get the band in there, which isn't so hard. Make sure you get it right way around because the adjuster's on this side. So make sure you've got the adjuster part on that side. All right, so band is sitting in there. So now I need to tip the trans up like so and get our clutch packs and try and wiggle them into there. Takes some finessing and some wiggling and a jiggling. Maybe not so much wiggling and jiggling. Okay, so we have our fancy new kickdown lever. We'll put that in there. We'll slide our rod down in there. Don't think it matters which way it goes. Poking down. Okay. Plug will go on the top. We'll just ease it in there for the moment. And then we've got our band strut, which will go there and there. Come on, baby.
A few moments later.
Alright, we've got that sort of in place. Wind that in, hold it in place. Okay, all right. Next part, the pump. Okay, so let's get the pump gasket on. So we've got these rods here to guide the pump on and line the gasket up. That's going there. Yes. Guide rods. Okay. Okay, so we're just pulling the pump in. We've already knocked it in a bit, but this is pulling it in all the way. So we're going to do 170 inch-pounds. Alright, pretty sure we're done there. Double checking. Alright, pump is in. Over we go. Right. We are getting there. Alright, we'll adjust our bands. Get our tail housing on. Which way should we go first? Probably tail housing first, and then we'll do our band adjustment. We are getting there. So, tail housing gasket just goes there. For some reason they've made it quite large around the top side. We'll just trim that after we get the housing on. Come on, stay there. Okay, there we go. Dunsky. Right. So 5 of the 6 tail housing bolts go into the open case here, so thread tape or thread sealant is definitely recommended. In fact, the only one that doesn't is this one that I've got to do in the car when I do the kick down lever because it's kind of in the road. Alright, so we're getting there with our transmission build. I'd like to measure the end float on the input shaft, but my dial gauge won't reach all the way to there. So all I can do is kind of, yep, I can feel it has end float. It doesn't feel like too much. I know there's supposed to be some, and it feels like every other Torqueflite that I've had in the last 30 years. So it doesn't feel excessive. I gotta say, I'm just going to go with it because I've got no way of measuring it at the moment. I have a dial gauge, but I've got nowhere to mount it. I'd have to make a special mount and everything, and you know what? It feels okay. All right, I've got to put my accumulator piston back in because I had to take it out because it, you know, flipping the trans backwards and forth, you know, kept slipping out. I've got to do my band adjustments. That's the next thing. We've got to adjust our bands, so our second gear and our low and reverse. Let's do that, and then we can do our speedo drive and that sort of thing, but we're getting there. We're getting pretty close. All right, now what was this? 72 inch-pounds from memory. Where's that torque wrench? So we've got a little baby torque wrench. What are we looking at? 72 inch-pounds. Alright, so once you've got your bands tightened up to 72 inch-pounds, you back this one off 4 full turns and this one off 2 full turns. So let's try and get ourselves lined up here. Alright, so we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, and we'll tighten that up to there. Alright, lock that down. Okay, and then 2 off that one. Right. Half. 1, half, 2. This means both bands will have some play, so yep, Yeah. All right, so the rod can't come out, but it can move. Right. Now we've got our speedo drive. So this is a 29 tooth unit. I don't know if you can see the numbers, but yeah, basically there's a 2 and a 9. If you can see that, not sure. But anyway, take my word for it. 29 teeth, and then you've got a range of numbers here. So these are the tooth ranges. So 26 to 31, you would line it up with that line. If it was a 32 to 38, you line it up with that line. 39 to 46 tooth, you line it up with there. So basically we're putting it in. There's a dot on the case here. So there's our dot, there's our mark. Put that there. And that holds it in like so. Right, well, there's our transmission, 90% complete. From here, it just needs a valve body put into it, transpan, seal it up, and it's good to go. And I think it will be good to go. I think this will get Dad's ute into the 12-second zone. I mean, the ute's gone 13.2 with a slipping transmission and slushy shifts. So with good sharp shifts and no slip, I think we'll see this thing into the 12s, which is pretty stout for a little 318. No turbo, no nitrous, nothing like that. Little 318, non-stroker, into the 12s, I'd be happy with that. And Dad would have thought it'd be hilarious to see his old farm ute running 12s down the quarter. So I could put the valve body in it right now, but I want to clean it out. I want to give it a good clean out because I'm sure there's some gunk in there. Clean it out. I also want to upgrade its shift kit. It has a shift kit in it, but it's still not firm enough for my liking. So I want to upgrade the shifts to nice sharp shifts. So we'll do that off camera, get it into the car, get this thing working, and get it out to the Mopar Nats. And you'll see all that on a future episode of Scotty's Garage.